Hello everyone and welcome to this incredible session. I'm with you Dharmendra Singh and you are watching PM eVidya channel and also N.C.E.R.T official. Today we are going to talk about not the subjects, not the class, and today we are going to talk about some initiatives which has been taken by the N.C.E.R.T. What about accessibility initiatives by N.C.E.R.T? What are those? We will be coming to know in a short while earlier. Related to this, if you have any questions, any query, then you know what you need to do. You can call us back. You can see the telephone number on your television screen, 8800440559. Apart from this, you can also send your suggestions, your questions through mail as well. Official mail ID on DTH class 1 to 12 respectively @CIT.nic.in. Why respectively? Because this telecast you can see on television from channel 1 to 12 of PM eVidya. Right? That's why this session is very important. If you miss this, then the link will be available on N.C.E.R.T official. You can watch this session again later on once you would have the time. So we've got a couple of experts to talk about this. First of all, I would like to welcome Dr. Melisha G. Walong, Associate Professor from N.C.E.R.T Shillong. She is connecting with us through online. I welcome you, Dr. Walong.
Thank you, Dharmendra. I'm Melissa Walang, coming to you from Northeast region, unit of N.C.E.R.T. I'm working here for the last 15 years and my specialization is in the area of sign linguistics. Thank you.
Right, thank you ma'am. And along with her, you've got Dr. Bharti Kaushik, Associate Professor CIT N.C.E.R.T here in the studio, you can see.
Namaskar. Namaskar.
And also you can see Payal Saini, the sign language interpreter. I welcome you all. I welcome you as well, Payal. Thank you. All right. So let's start about the accessibility. What kind of accessibility we are talking about, and what how many initiatives have been taken by the N.C.E.R.T. But before we talk about the initiatives, we all would like to know, Dr. Walong, from you, see, there are so many languages. If we are talking about India, there are plenty of languages in almost 20 steps you are moving ahead. You would have a new language to be talked about, to be understand about the communication skills. So here the language we are talking about, which is sign language, I think, which is the which has got a intensive scope. So what is the difference between other language or this sign language? If we can put some light on it, then we will proceed further.
Okay, sign language, the concept of sign language is nothing new. It's just that in our context we are quite late. Sign language has been existing as long as deaf people exist. So the language that comes out also, it comes out naturally because like any other languages, humans have the capability to communicate in two modes of communication, whether speech or in sign. If a deaf person cannot speak, his brain can rewire the mode of functioning, whereby language can be produced in the form of a mode which makes use of facial expression and hand movements. So humans have that capacity that if the other vocal apparatus doesn't work, then humans make use of other modes of communication. So given that the basic difference, because the basic difference is the absence of sound, instead we have hand movements and facial expression, and these are governed with a certain grammatical rule, principles. They are based on certain, it's not random movements of hands and facial expression. They follow a certain grammatical structure. So linguistically, sign language is at par with speech. So, and when we talk about sign language, the growth of sign language, if there are two people born deaf to a hearing family, naturally being human, they would like to communicate. And any form of communication evolves, be it a gestural form or we normally call it home signs at home in a hearing family. But when these children go to a residential school, a place where there are many other deaf children available, the language becomes a natural process of acquisition. They learn and acquire from each other, they communicate. So the language environment is much more strengthened in schools where they use sign language. So in India also we have, it took us quite a number of years to acknowledge that, sign language is a real language. It has the same equal functions and status as speech. So now especially, through years of research, many research across the country has contributed and strengthened the understanding of sign language. And that had helped us to understand that the problems faced by this community, what we call deaf community with a capital D. Mostly, these deaf with the capital D, they're born deaf since birth. They have no access to even sign or speech. So, but when we compare deaf children of deaf adults, they have access to sign language and they will go through the similar process of acquisition of a language. Acquisition of a language means understanding something that they see in this world, making meaning, making sense of what they see in this world. Therefore, language, be it sign or speech, the input to that child is very critical, especially in the early years of education. So, and for years, sign language was not acknowledged in education. And this is the challenge that most deaf children face. And they are sent to school, and in schools, they use speech as a medium of instruction. Materials are made in the spoken language, the written form. So it's even more difficult. Although the child may know to say to a teacher that I am hungry, but that child won't know how to associate the word hungry to the spoken language. How it is spelled out, like how it is written. So, but the child knows he can express that I'm hungry. But then teachers have to be able to connect the sign language, the language of the child, to the language that they are teaching in school, so that the child can learn that this particular word means hungry. He can relate to his knowledge of the first language. So these are the challenges where children face, where they are knowing a word first of the spoken language, then knowing how to write grammatical sentences in the second language. So because they are assessed in academic exams, they are assessed through the written word, how well they can write. So most of the research studies also shows that educational performance of most deaf children suffer because of the lack of language input in school. So coming to accessibility, accessibility is a very important point for the deaf people in terms of access to the language that they understand, through the language that they understand, access to the curriculum materials, access to the entire school environment, the activities involved, access to classroom interaction. So this accessibility for a deaf child means that the classroom has to be redesigned, the materials has to be redesigned, even the teacher training capacity, the skills of the teachers handling two modes of communication, that also has to be accentuated to ensure accessibility. That's it for now.
Absolutely. That's why this language is one of the best language, I would say, because it's not saying anything to anyone, but actually it's saying everything to especially when we talk about the sign language about this language, when we talk about these students who are basically in special needs, so there is a particular language where we can narrate each and single every word to the students. So there should be no barrier, no hurdle for the communication, especially when we talk about these special needs children. Now, Moods Parva, once again I will come back to you, Dr. Walong. You just take a little bit of rest. I'm moving to the Dr. Bharati, and also we would like to know something from you about this kind of differences. If we can put some couple of reasons behind this. One more thing, अभी हाल ही में हमने काफ़ी accessibility के बारे में सुना है. Recently we have launched e-comic book, I think, Priya the Accessibility Warrior. जिन लोगों ने देखा है, सुना है, पढ़ा है, समझा भी है, but accessibility तब भी अगर आपके जहन में नहीं समझ में आई है, तो दोनों चीज़ें मैं एक साथ आपके सामने रखूँ, हम दोनों ही चीज़ों को समझना चाहेंगे.
बिल्कुल. जैसा अभी डॉक्टर वॉलिंग ने भी कहा कि एक्सेसिबिलिटी रिगार्डिंग लैंग्वेज, कि भाषा अगर आपकी सुगम्य नहीं है, इस बात को हम ऐसे भी समझ सकते हैं कि मैं एक विद्यालय में हूँ, वहाँ पर मीडियम ऑफ इंस्ट्रक्शन सपोज इंग्लिश है और मुझे तमिल आती है या मुझे मलयालम आती है, आई एम नॉट वेरी वेल वर्स्ड इन इंग्लिश. So the kind of barriers I will face in that school in accessing the curriculum, in understanding कि मेरी टीचर मुझे क्या कह रही है या मुझसे क्या एक्सपेक्टेड है, उस सब चीज़ों में भी मैं बैरियर फेस करूँगी. दिस इज़ रिगार्डिंग एजुकेशनल एस्पेक्ट. Another aspect is how will I communicate with my friends, with my classmates, with my peers. And not only this, okay, somebody can make me familiar with the layout of the school building and make me familiar कि कौन सा कमरा कहाँ पर है, लाइब्रेरी कहाँ है, क्लासरूम्स कहाँ हैं, लेकिन still the language through which I am more comfortable in expressing myself, I'm not getting that environment in the school, that itself will create a huge barrier for me to engage not only with the curriculum but also with my peers. So this is the point which Dr. Melissa was also raising when she was talking about it in the context of sign language. सांकेतिक भाषा भी बिल्कुल वैसे ही है, फ़र्क सिर्फ इतना है कि बाकी भाषाओं में शायद हम मौखिक रूप से अपने आप को व्यक्त करते हैं, यहाँ पर सांकेतिक भाषा में हम संकेतों से, उंगलियों से, हाथों से, चेहरे के हाव भाव से अपनी अभिव्यक्ति करते हैं। तो ये अभिव्यक्ति बिल्कुल वैसे ही है जैसे कि हम मौखिक में भी करते हैं। और एक एडवांटेज धर्मेंद्र जी, स्पेशली जब आप मेले में हैं या आप कहीं शोर या भीड़ भाड़ वाली जगह में हैं, आपने महसूस किया होगा आप फ़ोन पे बात नहीं कर सकते हैं, आप अपने जो साथ में खड़ा है उससे भी बात नहीं कर सकते हैं क्योंकि एनवायरनमेंट की नॉइज़ बहुत आ रही है। लेकिन अगर आपको साइन लैंग्वेज आती है तो आप सरलता से बात कर सकते हैं बिना शोर की, एनवायरमेंटल नॉइज़ की परवाह किए हुए।
निश्चित रूप से।
तो ये है एक्सेसिबिलिटी के बारे में। और आपने कहा प्रिया के बारे में, बिल्कुल ठीक। प्रिया एक छोटी सी बुकलेट है जिसमें एक कहानी है एक छोटी सी लड़की की जो स्कूल के छुट्टियों के बाद स्कूल के पहले दिन क्लास जाना चाहती तो है, लेकिन उसकी परेशानी क्या है, उसके पाँव में प्लास्टर है, एक उसका पैर में थोड़ा सा परेशानी हो जाती है, तो वो कैसे स्कूल तक पहुंचेगी और स्कूल में कैसे सरवाइव करेगी। ये बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग कॉमिक है क्योंकि एक बच्ची के दृष्टिकोण से दिखाया गया है कि कैसे और किस तरह की बाधाओं से आप स्कूल में जूझते हैं अगर आपको टेम्परेरी या परमानेंट काइंड ऑफ कोई भी स्पेशल नीड है। तो धर्मेंद्र जी, मैं थोड़ा सा पाथ दिखाना चाहूँगी कि हम कैसे प्रिया तक पहुँच सकते हैं।
हम सब देखना चाहेंगे।
हाँ बिल्कुल। तो आपकी स्क्रीन पे आ रहा है पाथवे टुवर्ड्स प्रिया द एक्सेसिबिलिटी वॉरियर एन ई कॉमिक बुक। अब आप ये देखिए, ये हमारी NCERT की ही वेबसाइट है, इसी वेबसाइट पर ये सॉफ्ट कॉपी में अवेलेबल है। आप NCERT की वेबसाइट टाइप करेंगे www.ncert.nic.in और आप हमारे होम पेज पर जाएंगे। नेक्स्ट आपको क्या करना है, आपको स्क्रॉल डाउन करना है इस होम पेज को। जब आप स्क्रॉल डाउन करेंगे तो आप नीचे देखेंगे दीक्षा, निष्ठा, ई पाठशाला, अपेंडिक्स एंड करिकुलम ऑफ एजुकेशन, ICT इन एजुकेशन आपको दिख रहा है। नीचे के स्क्रॉल डाउन में आपको दिखेगा ई पाठशाला को यहाँ पे हमने ब्लैक रेक्टेंगल से हाईलाइट किया है। ठीक है, ये इसलिए किया है क्योंकि आपको NCERT की वेब पेज से, होम पेज से आपको सीधा ई पाठशाला तक जाना है। देन ई पाठशाला के जब आप क्लिक करते हैं वहाँ पर NCERT वेबसाइट से, तो आपके सामने ये वाला पेज खुलता है जो ई पाठशाला का है। इसमें होम, देन अबाउट, देन ई पाठशाला, एक्सेस ई रिसोर्सेज, QR कोड्स एंड कॉन्टैक्ट, ये तो है ही है। यहाँ पर जब आप ई पाठशाला पर क्लिक करते हैं तो अगेन देखिए जो ड्रॉप डाउन मेन्यू आएगा उसको भी ब्लू कलर से हाईलाइट किया है। वहाँ पर आपके पास 4 फील्ड ओपन होते हैं, 4 ऑप्शंस हैं, स्टूडेंट्स, टीचर्स, then we have parents and we also have educators and teachers resources. So if you'll click on any one of these, say for example I have clicked on students, so under students resources this is the next page that you will land on. This is, and it has so many resources, and again the Priya the accessibility warrior is highlighted here. And if I'll click on Priya the accessibility warrior, then I'll reach this page. Here again the blue rectangle shows Priya the accessibility warrior comic book on accessibility in English and Hindi. Now many of my friends who might like to read this book in sign language or would like, they are more comfortable in sign language, they might be thinking that this book is available only in English and Hindi. Let me click on any of the languages and this is where I will land. This is the cover page of Priya. And when you will actually start to engage with Priya, the accessibility warrior, you will be pleasantly surprised because on every page we have embedded Indian Sign Language videos. Not only this, we also have the audio version of Priya embedded in it. So this is how you can reach to Priya, the accessibility warrior, read and enjoy it, and you will learn more about how to make your environment accessible. और ये कॉमिक बुक इंग्लिश और हिंदी दोनों में है. हिंदी में नाम है प्रिया सुगम्यता योद्धा.
चलिए, बहुत कमाल की ये बुक है, आप बिल्कुल पढ़ेंगे इसको और उसमें एक एक चीज़ बहुत सूक्ष्मता से बताई गई कि अगर आप पार्किंग में जा रहे हैं तो रास्ता किस तरीके से होना चाहिए, अदर जो गाड़ियां हैं वो उस पार्किंग में नहीं होना चाहिए क्योंकि वहाँ पर जो गाड़ी पार्क हो रही है उसमें कोई स्पेशल नीड्स का बच्चा है, उसको वो सारी परेशानियाँ नहीं होनी चाहिए. आप किसी रिसेप्शनिस्ट के पास जा रहे हैं तो आपका पैर वहाँ पर रखने के लिए कोई चीज़ वहाँ पर बनी हुई है नहीं, ये छोटी छोटी सी जो बारीकियाँ हैं वो आपको यहाँ पर देखने को मिलेंगी. दैट्स वाई सुगम्यता का एक बहुत ही एक बड़ा सा एक स्कोप निकलता है और उसको हमने कहीं ना कहीं अर्थ अन्वेषण करते हुए इस बुक में दर्शाने की कोशिश की. आप पढ़ेंगे तो आपको अच्छा लगेगा और भी आपका ज्ञान विकसित होगा. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया डॉक्टर कौशिक, आपने इतनी अच्छी बातें हमारे ऑडियंस को बताई. लेट्स मूव ऑन वंस अगेन टू डॉक्टर वोलोंग. डॉक्टर वोलोंग, एज देयर आर सो मेनी कैटेगरीज of special needs if we talk about, but here I am picking a few of those. First of all, I am picking the deaf education by students who cannot listen clearly, who cannot speak clearly, but actually they are the part of education that they need to be. So brief background on deaf education and the challenges faced by them. I think that is the most meditative area and the problems are extensive. So if you can brief this once again.
Okay. I hope you can hear me. I have said in the beginning, there's a lot of sound coming from your end. Yeah, you can hear me?
Yeah, yes ma'am, go on please.
So what I'm trying to say is that the first talk session, I did mention you the challenges faced by a deaf child when the school does not have materials in the language that they understand, and the problems that they face in terms of materials they cannot access and understand. So I hope you can still hear me because the light went off. Can you hear me?
Yes ma'am, go on please, we can hear you.
Yes, okay. The light went off, so I'm a little worried. So I'll go quickly. Well, my point is here is that accessibility to curriculum materials is very important.
To catch her once again. चलिए, तब तक हम आगे बढ़ते हैं और डॉक्टर कौशिक, अगर आप हमें ये बताएं कि जो ई टेक्स्ट बुक की हम बात कर रहे थे, जितनी भी लैंग्वेजेस की बात हुई, तो अदर कंट्री में भी क्या ये टेक्स्ट बुक अवेलेबल हैं या केवल भारतीय संदर्भ में भी इसको हम देख सकते हैं?
इस बारे में मुझे दो चीज़ें कहनी है. पहला सवाल जो आपने डॉक्टर वोलोंग से किया था कि डेफ एजुकेशन के बारे में और उनके चैलेंजेस के बारे में,
चलिए
यहीं से शुरू करते हैं. अच्छा धर्मेंद्र, इस बारे में बातचीत करने के लिए, जैसे मैंने अभी कहा भी कि मैं एक ऐसे स्कूल में हूँ जहाँ पे इंग्लिश मीडियम में पढ़ाई हो रही है और मुझे सिर्फ तमिल या मलयालम आती है, तो क्या होगा फिर? आई विल फेस ह्यूज चैलेंजेस. द सेम थिंग इज हैपनिंग एज ऑफ नाउ विद आवर स्टूडेंट्स हु कांट हियर, स्टूडेंट्स हु आर वेरी वेल वर्स्ड इन साइन लैंग्वेज, सांकेतिक भाषा जिनको बहुत अच्छे से आती है, लेकिन उनके आसपास स्पोकन लैंग्वेज का एनवायरनमेंट है स्कूल में. अब वो स्पोकन लैंग्वेज का जो एनवायरनमेंट है, तो होता क्या है, ये बच्चे सुन नहीं पा रहे हैं तो वो बहुत अच्छे से करिकुलम मटेरियल से, टीचिंग लर्निंग प्रोसेस से, शिक्षक की बात से, अपने पीयर्स से और अपने मेंटर्स से कनेक्ट नहीं हो पाते हैं. जब वो कनेक्ट नहीं हो पाते हैं तो यही सबसे बड़ा बाधा है, सबसे बड़ा बैरियर है एजुकेशन में एंड एक्सेस टू एजुकेशन में. इसीलिए डॉक्टर वोलोंग ने इशू उठाया था और उनका नेटवर्क इशू हो गया था. शी वॉज टॉकिंग अबाउट मेकिंग करिकुलर मटेरियल एक्सेसिबल इन इंडियन साइन लैंग्वेज. एंड जब मैं कह रही हूँ भारतीय सांकेतिक भाषा, तो कहीं ना कहीं एक सवाल आपके मन में आ रहा होगा कि ये भारतीय शब्द को क्यों जोड़ रही हैं सांकेतिक भाषा के साथ में. तो आपको शायद ये जानकर आश्चर्य होगा कि सांकेतिक भाषा में भी उतनी ही विविधता है जितनी आपकी और मेरी बोले जाने वाली हिंदी या किसी और भाषा में. और हर कंट्री की अपनी एक साइन लैंग्वेज है. तो जब तक हम textual material, teaching learning material, teacher training material, curricular material सांकेतिक भाषा में उपलब्ध नहीं कराएंगे तो हम एजुकेशन के में एक्सेसिबिलिटी की बात पूरी तरह से नहीं कर सकते हैं.
Right.
आई थिंक शायद डॉक्टर वॉलंग जुड़ गई हैं हमारे साथ.
Yes, Dr. Wallen, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm so sorry the electricity went off because it's raining heavily here. I
No
hope
problem,
you can
that's fine.
hear me now. So I was talking about access to curricular material is one of the major issues that has been, facing the deaf community. It's a fact, like Nick also as well right now. Sorry.
Thundering there.
Yeah. So anyway, my point is that I wanted to highlight is that for many deaf children, having to read any textbook in a language that they understand is really meaningful for them, because I've tested it myself, translated many reading materials, and then when I take it to the school, deaf children immediately pick up the understanding of the story, because in the absence of a deaf teacher, a teacher trained in sign language, what happens to the children is that they see only lip movements, some writing activities by teachers on the board. They cannot understand the interaction that goes in the classroom because of the absence of sign language. And then if materials are already made available for the deaf children, despite the fact that their peers, their teachers may not know sign language, it will help them to connect of what is going on in the classroom. Mm-hmm. They can also, and they can read. It's also a motivation. I say this because when I take such materials to the schools, children started connect to reading, the activity of reading. They learn to, they suddenly exposed to different variety of words, different variety of text. Then they started connecting themselves with the text, and then they become independent readers. They don't need somebody to help them teach the meaning of so and so in words. So, but these materials has to be built extensively with, in all subject areas, so that it helps them to, why it's important to do that? Because it enhances their cognitive level, their understanding. It also will push up their educational achievement, because the lack of language input in classroom or at home can hamper cognitive development. Understanding will be slightly later compared to the other children. So language will be a setback if we don't make it accessible to the deaf community. So the language that we use in school, in public platforms, that is necessary. That is necessary in any variety of platforms. That is necessary, because especially we are talking in school education, language input, the critical years of foundation of learning is so important that language is accessible. And that language, if provided that the interaction also is available in both the languages as well as through the materials, that will really put deaf community at a level where they can actually perform better. So, and why I stress on reading, because we want to stress that, we want deaf children also to be able to read on their own. And teachers can facilitate the reading if they know basic communication skills. So the school environment act, it should also have that language environment for them, so that they can, because learning is not only about learning from textbooks as well. Incidental learning can take place. Socialization also takes place in the school. Other aspects of the school environment also, contributes to learning. So therefore, deaf children, the environment, the language environment is so critical. And having materials being used in sign language in the school along with other children in the framework of universal design of learning materials, then it raises the social status of deaf children in the classroom. They feel that they are treated equally, at par, their language is respected, and therefore others also feel that they will enjoy learning the language even if they don't know, even if they're not deaf. So because I've seen it, interaction takes place a lot amongst children in the classroom, and that interaction builds the learning and understanding of deaf children. So again, my point is also translating these materials into sign language. It also shows that we are at a stage where sign language is equally respected as any other language. It's actually coming to education even in mainstream schools, and we ought to ensure the linguistic and human rights to our deaf community in the country, and we are doing so, and NCERT is gradually making all these efforts by trying to ensure that, just like we do with other minor tribal languages, by building language binders and so on and so forth, we are doing so for sign language. And accessibility in a language that they can understand is a major thing, that a major steps that we need to focus, and we will continue to focus, because that is what has been keeping them away from the mainstream society.
Right, as we have 5 minutes left now, then after we need to wind up the session. But before we wind up, another important question I've got to be asked you, ma'am. When we talk about sign language, as we are highlighting today, so can we see the role of the sign language in deaf education? If you can brief this also very quickly. Dr. Walong, can you
you lost your voice. Yeah, can you repeat, please?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So what I'm asking is, when we talk about the sign language or any features, we ultimately, eventually, we talk about the role of that particular thing. So here, I would like to know, as we all would like to know the role of sign language in deaf education. So quickly, if you can brief this, we have only 5 minutes left now.
I can't hear you. Network.
All right, no problem. Once again, we will try to catch you. The technical team is working. It's a small technical glitch. Can you hear me now, ma'am? Dr. Wallo?
Okay. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So can we see the role of sign language in deaf education very quickly?
Yeah, sign language, the role of sign language is in deaf education and in education in general is that we have to treat it at par like any other languages, just like we have the 3-language formula where mother tongue is allowed to be used in the school, then the second language, then the third language. So if we acknowledge sign language as the first language of the deaf community, then that medium, that material should be available in the school. So we cannot say that it is a language of the special needs. It has a linguistic status of its own. It comes from a deaf community. It's a linguistic, cultural identity that comes along with the language. So if we put that at par, like NEP 2020 also talks about that we should ensure that mother tongue education is available in the school, at least up till, preferably up to class 8. So we hope that sign language also can contribute not only to the deaf children, but many researchers have proved that even knowing sign language, 2 modes of communication enhance cognitive development in any children. So yes, definitely sign language now, its role can be defined as a language, a first language, a mother tongue of the deaf community, and it deserves its place in education.
Yeah. Thank you. Dharmendra, yes, I would like to add here, as Dr. Walling is again and again talking about making language across the various sections of the community. So NCERT has also made a small initiative there. I just would like to show the path, how we can reach to that particular resources. It is also available in the soft copy. Very quickly I would like to show this. We have just begun with making 200-word videos on UDL principles. UDL principle demands that multiple mode of representation, engagement and expression should be there. So these 200-word videos we have chosen from 10,000-word dictionary that has been made by ISLRTC. So if you will go to diksha.gov.in, again the blue rectangle highlights where you will have to go next. You will have to go to Explore Diksha, and once you go to Explore Diksha, in the search window which is highlighted again with blue, you have to just type sign language, and here we have written on the screen explore the sign language. So but if you will even write the word sign language, even then you will be able to reach to this particular resource, which is Explore the World of Sign Language. This is a collection of 200 basic words, and this clicking on that will take you to this particular page. It is a flip book with ISL embedded videos and audios as well as supporting text as and when needed. And this is joint production of ISLRTC and CIT NCERT. And as Dr. Walling has again and again pointed out about the availability of sign textbooks and curricular material in sign language. तो धर्मेंद्र, मैं अपने व्यूवर्स से यही रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहूँगी कि वेट टिल 23 सितंबर 23 सितंबर हमारा सांकेतिक भाषा दिवस होता है। 23 सितंबर को हर साल मनाया जाता है। इस साल 23 सितंबर पर हम कुछ नया लेकर के आने वाले हैं सबके लिए।
आपने मेरा प्रश्न छीन लिया, एक्चुअली उसी पर आने वाला था। बिल्कुल, सांकेतिक भाषा दिवस 23 सितंबर को हम मनाने वाले हैं, तो चलिए जल्दी से बता दीजिए उसमें क्या
बिल्कुल,
खास है?
उसके बारे में थोड़ा सा ये कहना है। और उसमें डॉक्टर मेलिसा भी, क्योंकि ये संयुक्त प्रयास है और किसी कोई एक व्यक्ति नहीं कर सकता है, तो a team of experts came together and we have developed some material. वो मटेरियल क्या है इसका खुलासा हम नहीं करेंगे, इसके लिए हमें 23 सितंबर तक का इंतज़ार करना पड़ेगा। बट रेस्ट एश्योर्ड कि बहुत सारे प्रयास किए जा रहे हैं सांकेतिक भाषा में शिक्षा को सुगम्य बनाने के लिए, और उसके बारे में हम 23 सितंबर को ज़्यादा बता पाएंगे। तो ये बिल्कुल आप वैसा समझिए जैसे हम टीजर्स कहीं पे छोड़ देते हैं ना कि क्या होने वाला है आगे, तो उस मोड पर मैं सबको छोड़ना चाहती हूँ।
मिस्ट्री थोड़ी सी गायब हो गई, उत्सुकता बढ़ गई है, लेकिन यस 23 सितंबर को एक खास कार्यक्रम इसके ऊपर लेकर आएंगे। आपको ज़रूर वो देखना है, क्या कुछ उसमें खास बातें हैं वो हमें उसी समय पता चलेंगी। लेकिन चलिए, माहौल तो बना ही दिया है आपने, कुछ खास चीज़ें तो वहाँ छोड़ी दी हैं। अपने हिसाब से भी आप सोच सकते हैं कि क्या कुछ बातें वहाँ से निकलने वाली हैं। ऑफकोर्स क्या कमाल का ही दिन है सांकेतिक भाषा दिवस, जो कि हम 23 सितंबर को मनाएंगे। बहुत सारी बातें वहाँ से आने वाली हैं। समय हमारे पास इतना ही था, इस शो को हम बहुत ज़्यादा आगे नहीं बढ़ा सकते, बट यस शुक्रिया अदा कर देते हैं। थैंक यू सो मच डॉक्टर वॉलंग, आपने अपना अमूल्य समय हमारे बच्चों के लिए दिया। थैंक यू सो मच।
थैंक यू
एंड ऑल्सो थैंक यू सो मच डॉक्टर कौशिक, आपने भी अपना समय हमारे बच्चों के लिए दिया। एंड ऑफ कोर्स थैंक यू सो मच साइन लैंग्वेज इंटरप्रेटर पायल सैनी, जिन्होंने अपने एक्सप्रेशन से, साइन लैंग्वेज के माध्यम से इन सारी बातों को, जो भी प्रयास हमने यहाँ से आप तक पहुँचाने के लिए किए, वो आप तक पहुँचे और आपने उसको समझा भी, सीखा भी। और इसी तरीके से ये प्रयास जारी रहेंगे NCERT की जानिब से। कल होगी आपसे फिर मुलाकात एक नए विषय के साथ। तब तक अपना खास ख्याल रखें, घर पर रहें, सुरक्षित रहें और देखते रहें PM eVidya चैनल। फिलहाल हमें दें इजाज़त, नमस्कार।